The mist curled low across the cracked red soil, veiling the jungle's twisted roots and gnarled trees. Overlord Zarnvez raised a crystal goblet high, purple liquor sloshing against the rim. His voice boomed through the clearing. "Behold! The final hunt! Witness how easily the savage species falls to noble precision!" A cheer erupted from the gathered nobles, their jeweled armor gleaming under the twin suns. They lounged on silk banners, amused by the spectacle about to unfold. Caged at the edge of the clearing, Sergeant Cole Maddox crouched, silent, his wrists raw from shackles. His uniform hung in tatters, blood dried at the edges of torn fabric. Around him, a dozen humans, scientists, engineers, a few security officers, huddled in terror. Maddox scanned the surroundings. Elevated perches for shooters, hunting hounds and bioarmor restraints, tracking drones humming overhead. All meticulously arranged. All predictable. The keys to their freedom, or their deaths, hung from the alien's arrogance. Beside him, a young woman sobbed quietly. Maddox leaned closer, whispering without looking at her. "First rule. Don't give them the satisfaction." The gate hissed open. No warning. No countdown. Just the savage crack of whips and a blast of harsh alien language ordering them to run. Panic fractured the group. Some bolted straight into the open jungle like startled deer. Others stumbled, disoriented. A plasma shot rang out. A teenager collapsed mid-stride, the blast searing through his back. Maddox moved, grabbing two nearby survivors, a grizzled mining foreman and the sobbing woman, and hauling them bodily into the thicker undergrowth. Plasma bolts sliced the air overhead. Laughter followed, cruel and mocking. "Run, little prey! Run faster!" An alien hunter howled. Maddox kept low, breathing through his nose, filtering the sulfur stink of burning ground. He counted the shots. The spacing. The taunts. He memorized every weakness. When they were deep enough, shielded by thick vines and ancient roots, he dropped to one knee, releasing his grip. The mining foreman, Roderick, his name tag said, panted, clutching his side. The woman wiped her face with trembling hands. "They're hunting us for fun," she whispered. Maddox met her gaze, steady, cold. "Not anymore." A plasma bolt vaporized a branch nearby. Maddox motioned them lower. He pulled a jagged shard of metal from his belt, a piece of wreckage he'd palmed when the guards weren't looking, and began slicing a thin vine free from a tree. Roderick looked around, desperate. "We don't stand a chance, man. They got armor weapons. They have habits." Maddox cut in sharply, voice low. "Patterns. Egos bigger than their helmets." He knotted the vine into a simple snare, anchoring it between two roots. Primitive, yes, but effective against anything arrogant enough to think it couldn't fall. "They think we're weak," Maddox murmured. "They think the hunt's already won." Another distant scream punctured the humid air. Someone else, slower, had been caught. Maddox tightened the final knot. "Let's teach them what humans do when we're cornered." He led the small group deeper into the jungle, moving like a shadow, every step calculated. He noted landmarks, jagged stones, fallen logs, fungal blooms. This terrain could kill just as easily as any plasma rifle if you knew how to twist it to your favor. Above, one of the tracking drones zipped by, its scanner beams sweeping across the underbrush. Maddox froze, pressing Roderick and the woman flat against the earth. The drone's light danced inches away, then moved on. Roderick exhaled shakily. "They're gonna find us, man. It's just a matter of..." Maddox shoved a hand over his mouth, eyes narrowing. Footsteps. Heavy. Clumsy. Four-legged biohounds leading their handlers right toward them. The hunters weren't even trying to be stealthy. Why would they? They thought it was over before it began. Maddox's mouth curled into a grim smile. He waited until the first hound loped into sight, muscles rippling under engineered armor, plasma fangs dripping. Its handler strolled behind, bored, weapon casually slung over one shoulder. The trap snapped with a vicious whine. The hound jerked upward, yelping, a vine loop cinching around its neck and hoisting it into the air. The handler spun too late, Maddox surged from cover, driving the metal shard into the soft gap under the alien's armplate. A wet gurgle, then silence. Maddox dragged the corpse into the brush, looted its belt, 2 plasma cells, a combat knife, and a beacon transmitter. Roderick stared, stunned. The woman covered her mouth, horrified. Maddox wiped the blade clean. "Congratulations," he said dryly. "You're now officially insurgents." A distant horn sounded, low and braying. The aliens had found the dead hound. No more games. No more laughter. Maddox tossed the captured beacon into a thorn thicket, grinning as he imagined the hunters following it straight into a dead end. He turned back to his shell-shocked companions. "From now on," he said, voice slicing through the humid air, "we don't run. We don't hide. We make them bleed for every inch they take." He pulled the plasma blade free, inspecting its hum of lethal energy. "And when they realize the hunt flipped?" He flashed a cold, sharp smile. "They'll wish they never found Earth." Above them, in the gathering gloom, the jungle seemed to lean closer, an ancient, patient witness to what was coming. Maddox knelt, drawing quick lines in the dirt, traps, ambush points, fallback paths. The woman, Maria, she finally whispered, nodded, determination growing in her eyes. Roderick found his grip around a broken branch, knuckles whitening. Maddox finished the rough plan, looking up into the darkened sky. "They wanted a trophy hunt," he murmured. He pressed the plasma blade into Maria's shaking hands, guiding her fingers around it. "Let's give them one." The first kill had changed everything. No longer a laughing festival, the hunt thickened into something heavier, something with teeth. The aliens, once lounging in silks and feasting, now barked sharp orders into comms, their armored boots pounding over the jungle floor. Cole Maddox crouched low beneath a spiderroot tree, eyes sharp, heart steady. His hand rested on the new plasma knife, fingers adjusting to its alien weight. "3 of them, 2 hounds," Maria whispered, scanning through the broken foliage. Roderick adjusted his grip on a jagged metal shard, knuckles tight but sure now. Fear hadn't left him, it had simply sharpened into a different weapon. Maddox nodded once. "Split formation. Hit them hard. No prisoners." Maria's mouth tightened, but she said nothing. She understood. The hounds came first, snouts twitching, nostrils flaring. Their handlers, alien hunters in chrome armor, followed with plasma rifles loose in hand. Arrogant still, but the jokes were gone from their mouths. Maddox motioned, 3 fingers down, 1 swipe across. Maria slipped left, silent as breath. Roderick angled right, body melting into the thick underbrush. Maddox waited, heartbeat steady. 1 breath. 2. A hound stepped into the trap, its paw snapping the hidden tripwire. In a blink, sharpened spikes, fashioned from scavenged debris, swung up from the jungle floor, impaling the beast through its armored chest. It yelped once, then collapsed. Confusion rippled through the squad. Maddox moved. He was on the first hunter before the alien had fully turned. Plasma blade plunged into the soft gap between helmet and breastplate, severing artery and airway in one brutal twist. The second hunter spun, too slow. Roderick barreled out of the brush, driving his jagged weapon into the alien's knee, toppling it. Maddox followed, finishing the kill with a clean, efficient slice. The third alien tried to retreat, barking into his calm. Maria stepped from the shadows, plasma rifle trembling slightly in her hands. She fired. The bolt hit high, burning a hole through the hunter's neck. The body slumped against a tree, sliding down in a slow, broken heap. For a moment, there was only silence. The hound's blood steamed where it soaked into the cracked dirt. Overhead, scavenger birds circled, curious. Maddox wiped the blade clean, breathing once, sharply. He looked at the others. Maria's hands were steady now. Roderick's eyes were hard. Good. He scavenged the fallen hunters, more plasma cells, a small energy shield puck, 2 calm tags. "We're not winning by force," he said low and calm. "We win by making them bleed themselves dry." Roderick nodded, chest heaving. "What's next?" Maddox turned to the dense heart of the jungle. There was a place he'd seen during their forced march, a tangle of old Velmorian ruins, walls half swallowed by vines, stone cracked by centuries. Natural choke points. Cover. Traps ready to be made. He pointed. We build a graveyard. They moved quickly. Every footstep counted. They twisted vines into tripwires, filled pits with sharpened stakes, positioned fallen branches to block fast retreats. Plasma charges from stolen alien belts were rigged into rudimentary mines, set on hair triggers. The jungle itself became a weapon. By dusk, their work was done. Maddox perched atop a crumbling stone arch, plasma blade loose in hand, watching the distant shimmer of alien movement through the mist. The hunters had regrouped. Angry. Restless. He clicked the stolen comms tag, broadcasting a short, sharp signal, a bait. Minutes later, 3 squads came storming toward the ruins, trackers sniffing out human trails. They didn't see the first pit until it swallowed 2 of them whole, armor screaming against impaling stakes. They didn't hear the second tripwire until plasma charges ripped a squad into molten shrapnel. Chaos bloomed. Maddox waited until the confusion peaked, then struck. He moved like a phantom, slicing through scattered hunters. Roderick hit hard, using a scavenged shield as a battering ram. Maria, sharp-eyed and precise, picked targets, each plasma bolt finding the mark. In 30 minutes, what began as a hunt became a massacre. The surviving aliens, maybe a dozen out of 30, broke and ran, abandoning fallen comrades. Maddox didn't chase. He didn't need to. He left their corpses displayed, hung upside down from the ruins, armor shattered, bodies burned and broken. A message. The jungle wasn't theirs anymore. As darkness fell, he found a high outcrop and looked back over the kill zone. Fires flickered among the ruins. Carrion birds dived in flocks. Roderick sat nearby, panting, blood drying in streaks across his face. Maria wiped her rifle carefully, her movements methodical. You think they'll come back? Roderick asked after a long silence. Maddox didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared at the sky, the unfamiliar stars, cold and silent overhead. A whole galaxy that thought humanity was just another, primitive, species to be herded and broken. They'll come, Maddox said finally, voice low. Bigger, meaner. They'll bring their best. Maria looked up, eyes catching the firelight. And what do we do then? Maddox smiled, not warmly, but with something colder. Sharper. We remind them, he said, that no matter how high they build their towers. He sheathed the plasma blade with a whispering click. Predators fall just like prey. Below them, the jungle moved. Not wind, something heavier. Orders being barked. Heavy footfalls. They were already regrouping. Good. Maddox rose, silhouette outlined against the burning ruins. Let them come. The jungle shuddered with the force of their arrival. Cole Maddox watched from a shallow ridge as the death squads deployed. He counted 24 heavily armored soldiers, their black exosuits humming with shield generators, plasma repeaters strapped across their backs. Tracking hounds, larger, meaner than the first wave, snarled at leashes. Drones flitted above, casting grids of red scanning beams. This was no hunt. This was a purge. Roderick swore under his breath. Maria's face was a stone mask, but her grip tightened on her stolen rifle. They're scared, Maddox murmured. Roderick gave a hollow laugh. Doesn't look scared to me. Maddox shook his head. Scared men overcompensate. They bring too much. Move too loud. Trust gear over instinct. He traced the patrol routes forming below, perfect, ordered grids. Efficient for a battlefield. Death in a jungle. He pointed at the gaps between the squads, the thin spaces no hunter would think needed watching. Our road. They moved as shadows, slipping between sensor sweeps, keeping low where the brush thickened. Where the death squads saw only hostile terrain, Maddox saw opportunities, wet gullies to hide scent, jagged overhangs to set falls, thick vines to choke out light. Each step was a blade drawn deeper into the aliens' order. They found their first kill at dusk, a straggler, separated while adjusting his scanner settings. Maddox signaled. 3 moves, 1 breath. Maria struck first, her shot silent and precise, dropping the alien with a single bolt through the helmet joint. Roderick caught the falling body, dragging it into the underbrush before the others could spot the gap. Maddox scavenged quickly. Thermal grenades, shield disruptors, small drone scrambler. Use their strength against them, Maddox said quietly, pocketing the scrambler. Force them to doubt every shadow. Night fell harder on Velmora 4 than on Earth. No moon, only pale bioluminescent fungi and the faint glitter of alien stars. Perfect. Maddox and his team struck again an hour later. A fake distress beacon, stolen from the last raid, lured a patrol off course. They found only sharpened stakes hidden under soft moss. Blood misted the air as the traps sprung, shrieks swallowed by the thick mist. Panic bloomed. Calm chatter spiked, angry, disjointed, desperate. Maddox smiled grimly as he listened to their broken coordination. This wasn't a squad anymore. It was a collection of frightened individuals waiting to be picked apart. He moved fast, harrying them, triggering their traps prematurely, sabotaging their drones, whispering over hijacked comms and guttural, mocking tones. Maria's voice crackled across their stolen channels. Come find us, predators. The trees are hungry. Roderick laid false trails through the brush, marked with human footprints and blood smears. The aliens chased ghosts. One squad of 5 found themselves cornered in a natural amphitheater, thinking they'd trap their prey. Instead, Maddox dropped a looted thermal grenade from the cliffs above, collapsing the rock shelf onto their heads. The ground drank their screams. By midnight, half the death squads were dead or missing. Maddox crouched beside a gnarled tree, listening to the furious broadcast from their leader, Zarn's second-in-command. Fan out! Sweep pattern! Do not engage alone! Fear is their weapon, resist it! Maddox keyed into their frequency, voice low, distorted by static. Too late for that. A ripple of panic answered across the net. He cut the connection, sliding back into the darkness. The humans regrouped at a shallow pool near the ruins. Roderick dropped to a knee, drinking deeply. Maria kept watch, her eyes never leaving the shifting tree line. They're rattled, Maria said. Maddox nodded. Rattled animals are dangerous. A sudden thought crossed Roderick's mind. You think they'll pull out? Maddox shook his head slowly. They've staked their pride on this. They'll fight to the last rather than admit they lost to prey. He peeled a charge pack from his belt, setting it carefully under a fallen log, wiring it with scavenged tripwires. Roderick watched. What's that for? Maddox glanced up, a glint of cold humor in his eye. Final lesson. Dawn broke with a shriek of plasma fire. The last remaining squads, whipped into a frenzy, advanced in a wall of burning guns, torching the jungle, collapsing trees, blasting every shadow. But shadows can move. Maddox led his team through their blind spots, dragging them deeper into the maze of ruins, into corridors too tight for armor and guns. Every corner they turned had a new horror: spiked traps, collapsing ceilings, decoys wrapped in bloodied armor. Panic frayed into madness. One alien shot his own comrade, mistaking movement for attack. Another triggered a shield disruptor, frying his own exosuit. By mid-morning, only a handful remained. Maddox lured them to the pool. The last stand. The aliens approached, rifles raised, teeth bared behind masks. Maddox stood alone, motionless. Too easy a target. The squad leader barked a charge. They sprinted forward, and the hidden charges under the pool detonated. The ground collapsed. The aliens fell screaming into the old ruins below, crushed under their own weight, trapped in rubble, easy prey for the jungle scavengers. Silence returned, slow and heavy. Maddox stood over the shattered earth, blood flecked across his face, plasma knife humming softly. Maria and Roderick emerged from cover, battered but alive. Roderick stared at the carnage, awe and horror warring on his face. How did you know they'd come straight in? Maddox's gaze stayed cold. Pride, he said simply. The deadliest weakness. They scavenged what little remained. Food, water, power cells. Among the wreckage, Maddox found a broken visor, standard issue for Velmorian noble guards. He wiped the blood from it, inspecting the reflection of his own bruised, hardened face. A new kind of hunter looked back. He tucked it away. Above them, faint thunder rolled. Not weather, dropships. Bigger forces. Heavyweights. Maddox straightened, feeling the weight of the coming storm. Zarn's coming himself now, he said. Roderick paled. Maria tightened her grip on the rifle. Good. Maddox turned toward the jungle. Time to finish what we started. The dropship thundered overhead, cutting through the mist like a blade. Its engines scorched the treetops, scattering birds into the blood-red sky. Cole Maddox watched from the ridge, crouched low beneath a blackened stump. Beside him, Maria adjusted the sights on her scavenged plasma rifle. Roderick checked the last of their traps, silent and grim. The ship's ramp yawned open with a heavy groan. Figures emerged, 20 heavy troopers in obsidian armor, moving with cold precision. And behind them, clad in gleaming battle gear traced with golden inlays, Overlord Zarn Vez stepped onto the ground. His movements were different from the nobles Maddox had seen before. Slower. Controlled. Dangerous. Zarn scanned the jungle, jaw tight, expression carved from contempt. He hadn't come to gloat. He had come to kill. Maddox motioned Maria and Roderick back. This one's mine, he said. Maria started to protest, but he shook his head. If I fall, you disappear. No heroics. No revenge. Roderick set his jaw but nodded. Maddox slipped into the jungle, becoming part of it once more. He didn't need to win a war today. He needed to end a symbol. He needed to break their god. Zarn moved carefully, his squad fanned out around him, weapons drawn, visors scanning. Maddox watched from the trees, memorizing their pattern. Zarn's bodyguards were disciplined, a wall of armor and firepower. But discipline had its cost. Predictability. Maddox triggered the first trap, a rigged corpse wired to a stolen plasma grenade. The explosion tore through the left flank, throwing soldiers into the trees like broken dolls. Panic jolted the formation. Zarn barked commands, furious, struggling to restore order. Maddox moved. He struck fast, crippling one of the guards with a silent blade to the knee joint, vanishing before the others reacted. Another turned, only to find nothing but a severed vine and a whisper of movement. Fear seeped in. Maddox circled, bleeding them one by one. The remaining guards closed tighter around Zarn, rifles sweeping wild arcs. Zarn activated a personal shield, a humming barrier of crackling energy. Maddox didn't care. He wasn't here to burn through armor. He was here to strip away the mind inside it. Hours passed. The jungle closed in. Heat beat down. Insects swarmed. Shadows twisted. Zarn's squad dwindled, sabotaged by terrain, ambushed by phantom strikes, whittled into bloody remnants. By dusk, only Zarn remained. He stood alone at the ruin's heart, facing the crumbled stones where once his ancestors' banners had flown. Maddox stepped from the mist, plasma blade humming low. Zarn raised his weapon, voice booming. Face me, human coward! Maddox tilted his head calm. Been facing you all day. Zarn roared and fired. The shot hit nothing. Maddox moved with brutal economy, sliding low, plasma blades sparking against Zarn's shield. Zarn swung his rifle like a club. Maddox ducked, driving a shoulder into Zarn's chest plate, staggering the Overlord backward. The shield shimmered, weakened but not broken. Zarn recovered quickly, throwing Maddox off with a savage backhand. Maddox rolled, blood in his mouth, and smiled. Good. He wanted this to hurt. He wanted the Overlord to feel every ounce of humiliation. They circled, predators sizing each other up. You think a single ape can challenge the blood of Velmora? Zarn sneered. Maddox spat into the dirt. I think your blood spills the same as mine. Zarn lunged, blade drawn, a brutal, hammering strike meant to overwhelm. Maddox dodged left, slashing under Zarn's arm, carving a line across exposed wiring. The shield faltered. Maddox pressed, fast and ruthless, trading defense for speed. Each blow chipped at the armor, stripped away the protection. Zarn swung again, a desperate, clumsy arc. Maddox ducked and drove the plasma blade through the gap under Zarn's ribs. The Overlord staggered, gasping. But he didn't fall. He ripped free, snarling, grabbing Maddox by the throat and lifting him bodily from the ground. "You will die here, nameless, forgotten!" Maddox's vision blurred. The grip tightened. But his hand moved without thought, pulling the last spike charge from his belt. He slammed it into Zarn's chest plate. The explosion was small, contained, but enough. The armor cracked. The shield died. Maddox dropped to the ground, gasping, rolling clear. Zarn stumbled, chest smoking, breath ragged. Maddox rose, slow but steady. He didn't run. He walked straight toward Zarn. The Overlord raised his blade for a final swing. And Maddox caught it mid-arc, ripping it free with a wrench of brutal strength. Zarn fell to his knees, stunned. Maddox leaned close, voice low, deadly. "You thought you were hunting prey." He raised his plasma blade. "You were feeding a predator." With a single, merciless strike, he drove the blade through Zarn's heart. The Overlord's eyes widened in shock, then dulled. Maddox pulled the blade free, letting the body slump onto the broken stones. The jungle fell utterly silent. Later, at the edge of the ruins, Maria and Roderick waited, weapons ready. When Maddox emerged, blood-slicked and silent, they didn't cheer. They understood. This wasn't victory. It was survival, raw and heavy. They scavenged what they could, setting signal flares for any potential rescue. No words were needed. Above, the twin suns bled into the horizon. Maddox stood at the ruin's edge, watching as the jungle reclaimed the battlefield. He said nothing. There were no songs for days like this. Only the quiet truth written in blood and fire. They had come to hunt. They had left as warnings. And somewhere across the stars, the word would spread. Earth was not prey. Earth was a graveyard for those foolish enough to think otherwise.